He spoke at the RNC 3 times while we're on the subject. Dana White did.
Yeah.
He has promoted hard right podcasters. He obviously, as I stated previously, said he would never talk bad about Trump. Post January 6th, what stuck out was while the PGA and other leagues would cast him off, Dana White opened up his entire sport to Trump. The UFC welcomed him. They trotted him out. He called Trump's 2024 win karma. He recently joined the Meta board after Trump's election win. I think I saw today that there's a partnership between the UFC and Meta on technology as well. But it is clear with the F Joe Biden chants, the MAGA hats, that the UFC, aside from producing a documentary about Trump called Fighter in Chief, which was released on UFC.
Combatant.
Apologies for butchering that. So I'm being sarcastic. So look, why? Like, I understand that he wants to be loyal. You said loyalty is key with Dana White. But this is above and beyond loyalty, where he has allowed his entire sport to serve as a propaganda arm for a politician.
Well, I mean, again, people, I have seen the media talk about this. I'm glad you're asking it in this way, because I've seen the media talk about this, and they keep talking about this as some kind of ideological evolution, or, this is really about a guy who has right-wing views, and we never really ask like where they come from, except maybe he got radicalized more during COVID, which is true. And he spoke at as you mentioned 2016 RNC, so he's probably always been conservative for a long time. That's probably true as well, but no one ever really connects the dots. It drives me nuts. You can't understand what they're doing without understanding the power of their monopoly. Like, there's no way a business that feels competitive pressure to reform alienates a significant portion of their fan base. Doesn't happen. How on earth can you do that? I mean, I can point to any other things. I just told you that they don't even want to bid on certain kinds of prospects who are making good money on the fucking regional scene, not even at high level promotions, just the regional scene, because they don't feel pressure that they have to do that. This is what it all happens. I mean, let me just back up a step and say, over the last few years, I've saved almost all of them. I have received probably thousands, if we're counting emails, DMs, that kind of a thing, thousands of messages from fans being like, I just can't take it anymore. I just can't take it anymore. I can't take, the right-wing politics. I can't take the Trump in my face. You name it, whatever, all the different things that they're doing. And they just have to walk away. And a great example of how much the fan base has been homogenized is in 2019, Trump attended an event in Madison Square Garden. It was between Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal, I think UFC 244 to be specific. And you can even see video of this yourself. And then there's video of Joe Rogan talking about it, being like, Trump got booed. I mean, there were some cheers, but he got booed too. Fast forward to 2014, same venue, same month, November 2024. The other one was November of 2019. And he gets greeted with an absolutely roaring, overwhelming applause. I mean, just an absolute, the greeting of a king. And, folks want to say, oh, well, America changed their opinion on Trump. I'm like, not even in deep blue New York is that true. I mean, obviously there were some electoral gains, but he was still upside down there. He still is not popular in New York, relatively speaking. And that's not the reason why he got cheered. The reason why he got cheered is he just homogenized the fan base. He pushed out. Again, I want to be clear. I don't have hard data to support this. No one's really looked into it, but it's something that I feel like I've got an overwhelming amount of observational and anecdotal evidence to at least make some conclusions about. And that is a key one. So many people who think like me have just said they've had enough. But what has been the business penalty to that? Nothing. There is no business penalty. Remember, they've got more guaranteed revenue than ever. Sure, star power is down. ESPN might be upset. Pay-per-view buys are I don't know if they've collapsed, but they've certainly declined to a significant degree. But what is the business penalty to that? Nothing, because the monopoly is able to churn out content. They're able to get these guaranteed revenue deals. By the way, one of their big ways of doing revenue now is like B2B, like government contracting, because it's now part of a broader monopoly in TKO and WWE. TKO is going to these tourism boards and saying, hey, pay us a bunch of money and we'll bring a UFC show and a WWE show. We're talking like, almost $20 million that the government of New South Wales in Australia paid them for, I think, the 3 shows, right? I mean, just an enormous amount of money. And they're doing those deals with like Saudi Arabia and UAE. I mean, they're bringing a show to Azerbaijan. They haven't even been to Spain, and they're going to fucking Azerbaijan. Is that because that Baku has the best MMA market? I mean, don't get me wrong, there's good Azeri fighters, but no, obviously they're taking whatever money that the Azerbaijani government is paying them. And so I bring this all up to say the reason why he made this turn and leaned into it so heavily is because they have created a world where they are absolutely insulated from any kind of pressure. From pressure from media, it doesn't do anything. Pressure from fans, where are you going to go? Pressure from sponsors, who else in this industry is going to have reached that demo like them? Please be serious. And even then, they literally substituted Manscaped for Jeremy's razors, which talks about how their product is not woke. How the fuck do you have a woke razor? What does that even mean? What does that even mean? What it means is they're not going to bitch when Dana White goes arm in arm with the Tate brothers like another brand like a Schick or a Gillette might. They don't have to worry about any of that. And now on this other end, they can totally push out a portion of their fan base. They can, homogenize the whole thing. And they can now, like, do they like Trump? I'm sure that there's no question in my mind Dana White loves Trump and has ideological alignment. But it probably doesn't hurt that you don't have to face any antitrust pressure as long as this guy is in office. And I think Mark Zuckerberg trying to do business with him, and the announcement that you're referencing today is the biggest bunch of nonsense that ever was. Like, we're gonna integrate fan content on Threads. Great. Oh wow, fucking strike up the band and let's pop champagne. Threads is going to be popping this year, gang. Like, it's total nonsense. It's a complete nonsense. Why are they enmeshing their business? Because Trump, as you know, just offers a protection racket to his friends, and everything, once you understand that them insulating themselves from pressure is how they do their business on the fight side, why they've gone so political, like everything downstream from that, it makes total sense. That's the lens that you have to do. And I know I'm rambling. Let me give one more example.
Please.
They do this thing where like their fighters will say like crazy shit. So they had Bryce Mitchell say things like, and this is not a super educated guy. I'm just trying to be honest about that. But he says things like, oh, before Hitler did meth, I would have gone fishing with him, and the greedy Jews were taking over his country. And he says like this, these insane things. Now Dana White did come out and like speak out against him and call the guy stupid, like literally called him stupid. So he clearly tried to like ideologically distance himself from him, but he didn't. There was no suspension, there was no fine, he didn't cut him, like nothing. There was nothing. And listen, there's a debate over what the right answer is about how to punish people for these various forms of things you find. Like, do you want to be in business with these people or not? But the point I want to make is they do nothing. And more to the point, when another guy, Sean Strickland, says crazy things, this last time he went out there and said, just Google Sean Strickland quotes. I don't even want to repeat them. He was on the cover of an Australian magazine or newspaper, and they were like, knock this guy out. And the UFC tweeted it. So not only are they not doing anything when these guys say this kind of stuff, they're then cashing in on it. They are absolutely immune to pressure. But the point is, they claim what they're doing is free speech. Guys, I'm sorry. You have to be a little bit gullible to look at that and say what this is really about is a commitment to people's speech. And what it's probably more about is it just so happens that this speech policy, along with all of their other ones, it enables them where they never have to stop. They can always, remember, they have to deliver a certain amount of inventory to get that guaranteed revenue. I never have to pull a guy off a card. I never have to pull a card. I never have to cancel an event. I never have to do any of these things. There's no impediment to my business, so it can just run forward and I can deliver on all these things and I can get all that guaranteed revenue. It's not a commitment to free speech. It's a commitment to monopoly and using free speech as the reason.
Right. I remember, because that's ringing alarm bells with Sean Strickland when he was in Canada. And basically, he wore a shirt saying like, women go back in the kitchen, and he said being trans is a mental illness, and he questioned if a Canadian reporter slash journalist was gay and if they would raise their kid gay, and how you're a weak effing man if you do something like that. So Dana White came out and said, free speech, brother, free speech, and just sort of played up that angle, which was pretty gross. But what I have a problem with is Dana White didn't used to be this way. He, back in the day, would punish guys if they said the wrong thing. Is this just 2025 Republican acceptance and him knowing that if he were to potentially, like we saw it with the Bud Light deal, the amount of crap that he got in that, he probably doesn't want a repeat of that. So is it just like allowing these guys to say whatever they want because of the times we're in, and he doesn't want to alienate his audience?
I'm sure that's part of it. I'm also sure that, I doubt this might be a more authentic version of what he wanted to do all along. Nate Diaz used a gay slur, I don't know, circa 2012, something like that, and got fined a small amount for it, as part of by the way, they have a thing on the books called the Code of Conduct. They don't even use it anymore. In part because they don't want to blur the line anymore between independent contractor and employee. These guys are independent contractors, and of course, if they become employees, it becomes a different proposition about what they're entitled to, so they're trying to maintain some of that. But, I think it's partly just a reflection of, free from the shackles of woke. This is what we would have done anyway. But I think the other part of it is also we're just living in an era where, like, we're just living in the era of grifters and non-accountability. I just think that is part of the way in which society is in the United States is functioning right now. And then the other part is also, you got to remember, when they were striving for mainstream acceptance, they would do anything to get it. I mean, not anything, but they would do, they'd play ball. They'd play ball. Dude, I mean, understand something. Senator Harry Reid used to be one of their best friends. Like Lorenzo Fertitta and Dana White were close with Senator Harry Reid. Of course, who was a senator from Nevada, which is where the UFC is based and everything. But like, this is a very clear Democrat, and they were friends with him. And this is not like a thing that never used to happen. But once they reached mainstream status, and then once I think other factors hit where Dana White often says things like, I want to be able to be in business with people who share my values. And that doesn't sound insidious in any kind of way. And on some level, it's not. Like, most people want to be in business with people who share their values. But what that also means is that he doesn't want to have to ever compromise. He can't stand the media. He doesn't want to ever have to say he's sorry. He doesn't want to have to ever do. And this is true in like fight contracts. Like, dude, the UFC hates when fighters try to leverage them. Oh, they can't stand that. So like, I'm going to sit out for a year, and either you pay me or I'll sit out. They'll just let you sit out.
Yep.
They're not going to come up off their pot. They can't stand it. And so the point I'm trying to make here is there's probably they're not striving for mainstream acceptance anymore. In this country, like, how much more popular can MMA be? Not much anymore. Like, this individually big fights can be popular, but as a sport, this is probably about the saturation point, give or take. And between that, COVID radicalization, total insulation from business pressure with monopoly, and again, we have to meet a content delivery. So remember, in COVID, they wanted to just do shows before anybody knew what the proper protocol was, and they got shut down. Remember, they had to do that because if they didn't deliver on that content, they would not get the same amount of money from ESPN. So it was like very, very important that they met those contract demands. The most important thing for the UFC is that the trains leave the station on time. We have a card, the fighters show up, they make weight, the event goes on, and then we do it again, and we do it again. It's banquet food, right? You have to always be able to deliver large swaths of it, and that's like a machine that has to run. That's what's most important to it. That's what they want to do, and anything that gets in the way of it is the problem. Anything that facilitates it, they're going to emphasize. So it can be those other factors that you mentioned. I just don't know how you can, for me, as somebody who's like watched this kind of thing develop, people want this to be a completely separate thing from the way in which they run their business. And to me, everything is downstream from that.